Okay.
Oh, sorry. Testing, here we go.
Testing.
All right, we got 2 bars of batteries.
She'll kill the AC.
Oh, good point. I just thought I'd pull it off.
Testes, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I love using my
3
Testing on.
cheesy scrubs. There.
2 boobs, 3 boobs. 2
Hey.
boobs, 3 boobs.
Hey YouTube fam, we are Sex Talk with My Mom, and we are here with Celestial Sex, who is about to interview us for their podcast. We thought you might be interested in hearing this.
Thank you for
And it's going to be funny.
Of course.
Great. Hey guys, how are you?
Very
We are
good.
So good.
So we're here with Cam and KarenLee.
Hello.
Hello.
Cam Poter.
Yes,
Are you also Poter?
Yeah, I am.
Great.
that's my mother.
We're related. I gave birth to him.
Mother and son.
That's right. And Cam and KarenLee are the co-hosts of the podcast Sex Talk with My Mom, which I'm sure we just introed. And you two have what I would consider to be an admirable relationship as far as parents and
Thank
children
you.
are concerned.
Thank you. I thought you were going to say abnormal.
It is abnormal as well as abnormal in many people's eyes.
Yeah.
Probably more abnormal than most.
It would be more abnormal if you were wearing a backpack and Cam was inside it.
Yeah.
Could be more abnormal.
It could be more abnormal. No, I think so. The theme of your podcast is one that is sex related, of course, but it seems when I listen to it to feel largely about breaking boundaries between like traditional ideas of how parents should talk to their kids.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, it kind of is rooted in this experience I had in college, actually, where my friend once asked me, "Did you ever tell your mom that you smoked weed?" I was like, "Fuck, no, I'm not going to tell her that." And he's like, "Why not?" And him just asking why not and pressing me that little amount led to a whole paradigm shift where I'm like, wait, why don't I tell my mom that I smoke weed?
Mom smokes weed.
Turns out my mom's a fucking pothead.
Excuse me.
Wow, and you guys didn't know that?
Wait a second. I'm not a pothead.
During college, when I was in college, were you
I don't even.
smoking weed?
Not really. I mean, I went through a period in college where I was like a pothead. And then I stopped, especially when I had kids. I wasn't smoking pot when I was pregnant or anything like that. And then at a certain point, I don't know why, but I just started it up again. But it's not like I'm like doing it every day or even once a week. I mean, it's just I like a little hit here and there.
Yeah, I was basically just saying she smokes way more pot than I do. Maybe not way more. I smoke very infrequently.
I definitely smoke more than you. There's no question about it.
That's so funny.
I'm proud of it too. No, I'm just kidding.
I've been.
It is legal here in Los Angeles.
I've been trying to get my parents in on that game.
Have they smoked?
No, but we'll see.
Well, you can always infuse it in their tea.
I'm curious. How did you learn about sex?
Karen?
Yeah.
Okay. How did I learn? That's such a good question. No one's ever asked me that in all these years. Okay, so my father's a doctor and
What kind of doctor?
internist.
Ooh. My dad's a urologist.
Get out.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't talk to you about sex? Urologist?
No, but like kidney, vagina, penis, like those were all welcome terms at the dinner table.
Especially kidney.
As opposed to the other ones.
But it wasn't like super sexual in nature. It was very, which I think was good. It was good to like desexualize, like, you know, your penis isn't always sexual and vaginas aren't always sexual.
Your kidney is always sexual.
Yeah,
your bladder is a turn on.
Kidney is so exciting.
Bladder talk is like super.
The kidney is the clit of the gut.
Okay, so yeah, that's how I started talking about sex. My dad always emphasized, this is how we learned about what having sex was. It's when a man sticks his penis in a woman's vagina. Okay, thank you for sharing that. And once it's like laid out like that, there really is no more you need to ask. It's just like, okay, that explains things.
And that was kind of it.
You know what?
Was it one talk?
It was, and then I remember like we told my younger brother, who was 6 years younger than me. I have a sister as well, and he just was running around the house like a little 6-year-old does, saying he found out what the word fuck meant, but we said it's called pluck. I don't know. Anyway, he would chase us. We just decided to tell him what it was. We said, you know what plucking is? It's when a man sticks his penis in a woman's vagina. My sister had one of her guys that she had a huge crush on when she was in high school come to the house, and my brother opens the door and goes, you know what plucking is? It's when a man sticks his penis in a woman's vagina. And she was so mortified. She slammed the door on the kid. And
I love when kids have a ton of information to get out, and they know it's going to shock people.
It's shocking the shit out of her.
They just get through an entire paragraph as fast as they can. Enter a room, spew a paragraph, leave the room.
But surprising, my mom was like, you know what? You should not be kissing someone like, French kissing because you're swapping spit. Contrary to what I say to Cam, who's a human fountain.
I don't think they're even aware of it.
Oh, okay. We'll go down that rabbit hole in a minute. But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely frowned upon, but I was the firstborn, and I was kind of like the goody girl. I would like do everything else, but I remember like sitting on a guy's lap and like at prom in my basement, and I would like, do you want to have sex with me? And he'd be like, yeah. I go, well, I'm not ready. I was such a cock tease.
Wow.
I mean, it sounds like you were trying out those words.
I was, yeah. I mean, but as soon as I got down to college at University of Illinois, I was like, whoa, I can do a lot of things here. I broke up with a boy that I was dating, and I was like, I'm just going to go hog wild here. There's no parents here. I'm going to smoke weed, as we know. I'm going to drink, as we know. I'm going to have sex with tons of guys, as we know. And it was just great. I loved college.
I didn't know it was tons of guys.
Well, not tons, but more than one. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, whatever.
All right.
Anyway, we don't have to go through the numbers again.
Less than tons.
More than I did.
It was more than 4. It was just like, I was like kind of like what we talked about in the last podcast, where it was like everything else but type of thing too. There was a lot of sexual stuff going on at U of I. That's why I didn't go to WashU.
I'm a big proponent of everything sexual is sex. I think that's like.
I think that's the new way of looking at things.
The first time I had P and B sex, my first thought was, oh, cool, this feels great. And second thought was, oh, this is just like what we were doing before.
Yeah, it's just that there's a hole this time.
Yeah.
There isn't a zipper in the way.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of calling it all sex, because also because I think it's more inclusive of like.
Yeah.
Well, that means I was a huge slut. I was the ginormous slut then, if that's the case, because I did everything else but with a lot of guys. So that's okay.
So
Cam, in the 70s.
Cam, you're about mine and Colin's age.
Yes.
Yeah, we're similar ages, so that kind of helps set the scene. And you were living. Did you live in Illinois your whole life? Is that
absolutely
Chicago?
Yeah, Chicago. So you were raised in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a sister?
Yes. Older sister, younger brother.
Older sister, younger brother. Great.
How did you find out about sex?
I think it was just a well-known thing in my household. Growing up with my mom, and I mean, you probably remember the sex talks better than I do. It just seems kind of second nature to me. I don't remember any talk in particular, actually.
You were just like watching like All My Children, one of the soap operas, and you're like, Mom, my penis is getting it hurts. It hurts, Mom. Don't talk to your dad about that, because he has one.
All my children was my first porn.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of making out going on All My Children.
I remember being
So
very aroused by daytime soaps.
Yeah.
It was like daytime soaps and then dating shows at night.
Daytime dating shows and dating. Well, daytime. There was also like daytime, like Maury Povich style.
Oh, definitely.
Some of those episodes would get real sexy.
Well, unfortunately, with those shows, they're exploiting these people who are out of their minds, right? So they're like ripping each other's clothing off, and then for a young person trying to sort that out, it's like,
as a kid, though,
just see clothing coming off.
Yeah.
Kind of put it in the context of abuse or whatever's going on with Maury and
So weird.
So,
I am conflating Maury and Jerry, I suppose.
So sex was open for discussion.
I think so.
You felt comfortable.
I think
about it, bring it up.
I think it would have been awkward I think it still is awkward for me to acknowledge that I'm like a sexual person in front of my mom. No, I mean, it's just compared to most other children, yeah, definitely. Like our boundaries are way further along.
Yeah, we talk about your premature ejaculation. How many people talk about
I'm
that?
just saying, if I were actually if I was standing with a woman that I found like that I was really interested in dating or wanting to have sex with, it would be very hard for me to actually like hit on her in front of you.
But you brought on dates, lovers, and
yeah, but it was usually like, okay, this is the end of this, you know.
Once it's over, then you can talk about it.
But during it's especially challenging. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
And you're both you're Jewish. And,
not Mormon. And after the last podcast, not wanting to be Mormon.
I'm sad I tried to convert you. Where would you say you fall in the spectrum of Judaism as far as your faith practice or belief system?
Very culturally not like I think I believe I appreciate a lot of the tenets of Judaism, like, you know,
family.
You know, there's a high emphasis on education, forgiveness, atonement. Like, these are things I think are good to have. But in terms of like specific religious practices, it's very little.
Yeah. 2 days a year.
Very secular. I mean, you can tell by the little statues we have on our desk here. Like, I'm definitely more Buddhist if I were to compare any religious beliefs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and he's gotten me into more of a Buddhist mindset as well. But yeah, I still consider myself to be a card-carrying Jew, not like the same as card-carrying Mormon. But you know, it's the cultural. It's more the culture than it is like I don't practice. You know, I don't keep kosher or any of the things that.
Do you believe in God?
I do, but probably not in the same way that most people refer to God. I think of it more as like this. I think there's a lot of forces that we cannot see, and those forces are like moving us in ways that we could never even imagine. And so those greater powers is kind of like that's my God.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I kind of feel the same way. I have like more like a inner spiritual feeling about God.
Which is not a very Jewish. I mean,
it's not necessarily a Jewish theme.
It could be if you look at like Kabbalah.
More of that.
They're
mystical.
Yeah. You can find mysticism in Judaism, but it's not like that's not what I was raised in, like Sunday school and Hebrew school and stuff like that.
And in Sunday school and Hebrew school, are there discussions on sexual morality? I mean, the vibe that I'm getting is that it is it's an open on, like everything's on the table to discuss.
I think Jews are looked at as pretty sexually out that like sex is great.
Yeah.
So I've often heard guys being like, isn't it great being with Jewish women that like totally into this thing?
Jewish women do not have the reputation of like liking to give oral sex, though. It's like
I didn't know this.
No, but now modern day Jewish women. But when I was growing up, it was like it was like a standard joke.
Oh, the Jays are not going to do
once they get married. Yeah, that's just like stereotyping Jewish women.
I've never heard that.
But I think the thing is with
what the hell is it?
There's a whole reform movement. There's a reform movement that I subscribe to. But you know, it's changed over the years because I grew up conservative and then I became reformed, and reformed are, you know, allowed to do every single thing that the males can do. So, but I just think the whole concept of Judaism is one of open-mindedness, especially the liberal, you know, more reformed Jews. And I mean, I'm not an authority on it though. I just more go on my own feelings about sex.
That's kind of where it fits in. Like, it's not even brought up in Sunday school, as far as I know.
It's not frowned upon.
It's not even talked about in like. I don't even know where I would find that information to say, hey, do the Jews like sex? Don't wait till marriage.
The Orthodox Jews, I mean, I know that they can't have sex like 2 weeks after their period, but then you're supposed to have it like every Friday night, and you're supposed to have it. I mean, there's certain.
You're supposed to do it through a sheet, a hole in the sheet.
That's when you first get married.
Oh,
But
really?
we're
I
not
thought that was every
Orthodox.
time.
Okay, so, but we are not the authorities on this
Yeah.
subject at
So
all.
I think when most people, some people have never met Jews in their lives, so
Have
they
you guys
think,
ever met Jews?
I met Jews and Jewish people and dated Jewish people, but it's, I did not grow up around them. It's been my experience in Los Angeles.
yeah.
So was it older Cougar that you dated? Was she the Jewish one you were talking about?
She was Jewish.
Oh,
Oh my God! How did you pinpoint that, Mom?
Nailed it.
How did you know that?
I just can read minds. What can I say?
I have not
Sounded right.
talked to our listeners about that experience.
Oh, maybe we should get into it.
Right now.
Maybe someday.
I did you in high school.
What?
yeah.
Oh, because
Oh,
you
in
were from
Chicago.
Chicago.
Chicago. Yeah.
Yes, I think most people sometimes like the stereotype is like the black hats with those pants or like those with those curly.
If you haven't grown up in an area, I mean, you grew up in a fairly large city in the Chicago area. So.
Yeah.
But that's like that's
Right.
like a completely different religion than what
Wait,
we're
which
used to.
temple is it?
In Northbrook,
Oh,
Illinois.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's fun.
But yeah, I remember my first exposure to seeing people who were Orthodox Jew were in New York, and I was in college on an internship, and I'm like, whoa, wait.
Yeah.
Really?
We would say the same thing though.
Yeah,
It's like
sure.
watching.
It's a
like,
completely different religion.
it literally is. I mean, you go to Israel and it's like, whoa, this is a whole little. It's almost like very similar to me, like Mormonism.
Mhm.
And Amish or whatever. It's like the whole
It's just a different place.
covering your entire body, they have to wear wigs, and
Men
women have to
can
wear.
touch each other. With
Yeah,
their
there's all
temple.
kinds of restrictions, and that's what I don't like about any religion. Anybody that has these kind of like hard ass doctrines, I don't want to be involved with. I don't want religion, and the same with every type of religion. That's why wars always start with religion. It's just horrible to me.
You're more of a soft ass person.
I am totally a pacifist. Yeah, free love. I'm a hippie girl. Yeah, that's me.
And we recently had someone on our show, Joe Carnegie, on our most recent Patreon episode, who did Birthright.
Yeah, I know that.
Oh yeah, Joe's great. Did either of you do Birthright?
I did. Yeah. Was it even around when you were?
I know. I didn't get to do a lot of stuff all those fun things to do.
Yeah,
So you did Birthright.
I did Birthright. Yeah.
So
What is birthright, Cam?
Well, how did Joe describe it? He was like, "Oh, it's a crazy time." Then
Joe described it as a state-sponsored fuck trip.
yeah, that's
It's
hilarious.
true
That
to
was
get
his
to
language.
get more
Yeah.
into to marry Jews, and it's like the opposite, I guess, of Mormon culture
Right.
in that respect.
Well, words similar.
Yeah,
After marriage.
Yeah, it's
Like
just
going to BYU is like, yeah, go to BYU, find your husband or your wife.
Yeah,
the
it's
tuition is
All about
subsidized.
getting you
Lots
guys
of
married.
Dances at BYU.
Yeah.
It is kind of like my daughter came back saying it was like propaganda to her.
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, they're paying for you to be there. Not going to go ahead and tell you about the opposing side over here.
Right.
for me, it was not a very sexual trip whatsoever. It was quite boring. I mean, it was boring in that sense. I actually thought it was a pretty culturally significant experience for me, but with regard to meeting, because people on my trip were like much younger than me, I was very tired the whole time. I never got over the jet lag, so I was not very flirtatious at all. I wanted to be by myself. It was a very different experience than
Wanted
Joe
to get
had.
some rest.
So jet lag's a turn off for you.
Jet lag's big boner killer.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Joe is probably going out.
It
at
really
night.
works for me.
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah, you want to get me going? Get me on a red eye to New York.
Colin's
That
out
next day,
hour
I'll just
15 to Sydney, Australia. Rock hard. Can't get out of his seat.
That's how Cam gets during silent retreats.
Yeah, for me, it had to be extremely comfortable, like silent, emotionally stable.
Yeah, I don't know that. From what I could gather from our interview with Joe, it doesn't sound like he was as into the ideas that Israel was trying to push on him as they wanted him to be.
So I think that happens a lot.
Yeah, I think like they're thinking as far as I can tell, they have this one idea of what a sexy time would be.
Yeah.
And if you happen to fall into that zone, then it works.
Yeah.
It worked for H3H3 Productions.
Who's H3H3?
They're like a big
Ethan
internet.
and Ela.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just spit all over your course. Yeah. They're big internet
Jesus
podcaster, YouTube people.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They met on Birthright.
Yeah. I was hoping, and nope, did not happen.
You didn't meet any Israeli soldier there that you were hot after?
Nope. They do pair you with these really attractive Israeli soldiers. And,
Male and female.
I was just so irritable that given my sleep deprivation that I just I couldn't even communicate with people. It was bad. It was.
I don't think you're
Probably
representative.
really frustrating.
He is not representative of the average person. I know that your brother did not say the same thing. He had the time of his life.
Yeah. I just kind of enjoyed. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but it just for different reasons.
Yeah. And Dad?
Oh,
Oh boy.
Yeah,
So
we don't have to talk about Dad, but
well, here we go. You can-
So the whole it's not very normal to create a podcast with your mom talking about sex.
Right.
Turns out. So the whole journey that led up to this was that my dad passed away when I was younger.
okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
it gets worse than that. I don't know why.
It is like the tragedy into comedy thing. He was murdered, and that really kind of flipped our worlds upside down.
Yeah.
That was when I was 17.
His sister was 19 and his brother was like 11.
Yeah. And so
Okay.
and yeah, so it was an extremely traumatic experience, and it brought our family closer because we were already very open about sex, and I wasn't even having that much sex at 17, or I was not having sex at 17.
Well, wait, if we can define it differently.
Yeah, if I was defining it differently, I was hooking up with people. But so that was always discussed, and my friends would always come over and talk to my mom about sex or relationships. And then, so we always had this dynamic, but especially after my dad died, the whole family came together to support each other.
Yeah.
And then eventually you started dating again, and then this took a weird turn.
Yeah, it took a turn. So I started dating, and I started looking on the internet for like help for women, over 40, because I was like 47 or something like that. And I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here, because I got married at 23. I was like almost like a Mormon, or an act.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to start dating. I'm going to figure this out. And so I started going on all kinds of internet dates and getting kind of crazy out there. And I'm trying to find some help, and there's nobody on the internet. I couldn't even find podcasts. I couldn't find it. That wasn't even a thing then. So I decided, well, I'll just form my own YouTube channel.
Well, there was stuff out there, but not necessarily for women the second time around.
No, like the pickup artist community. I'm not going to listen to them. And then young girls, with the wing girls and all that kind of stuff. They were not. I'm not going to relate to them either. So I thought, well, I'll just start my own. So I'm going to help. I'm going to get women on to talk about reinventing yourself out of, after a divorce. I'm going to write a book called The Cougar's Guide to Getting Your Ass Back Out There. And then it turned another turn. Every guy under the age of 30 was on my show just wanting to talk about cougars. It was it. Or talking about
people
sex.
tuning in,
Yeah.
they're all 18 to
Yeah.
35-year-old.
No women wanted it. It was 95% male, 5% female. And now it's 97% male, 5%, 3%. All right, whatever. So
she wrote this book called The Cougar's Guide to Getting Her Ass Back Out There. And at the same time, she when she told me that she was starting a YouTube channel, she was like, I'm doing this to help other women date again. And I'm like slowly seeing these videos trickle out, and they start like that, and then they move quickly to like a cougar's thoughts on penis size, or like let's talk to Nina Hartley about oral sex.
yes.
It was a big porn star, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on, Mom? This was meant for women in their,
If you can't beat them, join them.
So she started targeting these videos to them.
Okay, so
Interesting.
So out of this tragedy, you found a new opportunity to reach people, connect with people, and that was the idea, was to like make content for people who were in a similar age bracket.
Yeah.
And
I have a social work degree, a master's in social work.
Yeah.
So I thought this would be a great outlet. I always liked being behind the camera. I did some commercial work when I was growing up, and I've been behind the camera. I was working for a videographer doing a lot of creative videos, so I knew about editing. So I kind of figured I'll put it all together and do this show.
That on its own is just fascinating. It's so cool.
Thank you.
It's extremely. It's just so timely. Like it feels like it's very so of the moment.
Yeah.
Someone could use all of those resources to reach people, and also extremely of the moment that that the internet decided it had to like become something super horny.
Exactly what happened.
I mean, yeah, just like having all of these incredible intentions for all of these horny dudes to show up. That's so interesting. How did that feel? What was that like?
I mean, okay, so it's like one of those things. I noticed in the one video that I did with a friend of mine on reinventing your life after divorce, we got like 48 views. And I interviewed, what do porn stars think about penis size, and I get 5 million views. So I'm going to go with that one, right? It's just like I'm going to go with whatever my audience wants me to do. And I really feel good about it. I know it sounds crazy, but I go Monday, Wednesday, Friday live right now on KarenLee Love. I changed it to. And what I do is I just talk to guys from all over the world about, how they feel about being shy around women. How they are. There's so much curiosity about being with an older woman. And I'm writing a book about that now. So I feel good about it, helping guys talk about sex with someone who, like me, who's got experience, who's not afraid to talk about it. And my real passion is obviously our podcast, because then we get the double thing there. We got people that are listening that are my age group, and then we got people that are younger and millennial age group. So it feels good. I feel like Cam once said to me when we were driving in the car like years ago, if you could do anything in the world, Mom, what would you do? And I'm like, I'd be a talk show host. So I went ahead and he's like, why didn't you do it? And I go, I'm going to do it. And I did it. But it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
And to like, I can imagine a guy finding your channel and thinking it's about one thing, and for the language that like you're talking about sex to, you could very well be reaching people who are slime balls.
Oh, I reach a ton of slime balls.
Yeah.
50% of my audience after school.
Yeah, which
I do.
But then
you're
able to talk to them in a way that it like comes from this social work background.
Yeah, no, it comes from like I'm gonna block you if you ask me to stand up and show you my ass or whatever they ask me to do. I'm like, I'm not a cam girl. I'm not a porn star. Stop treating me like one. And they know that they're gonna be blocked. So my YouTube audience is perfect. Instagram, I got kind of like Twitch is the worst. Twitchers are just like no respect.
The gaming
that sounds
community.
very
The gaming community are just little dick boys. But typically, my YouTube audience, they know. I got 40,000 subscribers on YouTube. They know they better treat me with respect or they're going to be blocked. So.
Do your moms also think that the Twitch audience are?
They do now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird coming, talking to you guys who have grown up with moms that were not as, sexually open.
I think most people have moms that are not as sexually open or technologically advanced as this.
Right. Yeah.
That combo.
And having like that desire to help people and not that our moms don't have desires to help people, but to have that social work background, just you're well equipped to handle this type of audience. Have you noticed like success stories, like people?
Yes.
Yeah, people.
I
like,
get them. I think
watching your content.
Yeah.
And responding.
Didn't someone just message you saying I just got married?
Yeah, that's someone saying I listened to your advice. I just got married. I do some coaching, and I feel really good when they say to me that that they've gotten more confidence. That's my main thing. Is I want guys to get confident. Just once you get confident, then it's going to affect all aspects of your life. I don't want to just be focused on even sex, relationships, coworkers, jobs. Just following your passions in life. Those are really important aspects to, what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So Cam, you're watching your mom upload these videos. You're watching all of, like, I would feel extremely protective.
Oh, he is. Oh my God.
I think I was more in the past.
Yeah.
Now I think I'm like,
We'd go to concerts and he'd be like, if a guy was like talking to me and just giving him dirty looks, and
because who the fuck wants to watch their mom get hit on in front of them? And it's really uncomfortable. The same way that I would feel uncomfortable hitting on someone in front of you. It's there's like a disrespect there, and I'm not sure where that comes from, but it was very strange, and so I started talking about it in my stand-up.
he'd bring my book there, which he sold a lot of copies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah.
You'd show the book,
I would
joke about the book, and then there's some available in the back.
Yeah. Well, that would, like, part of my whole bit was that I would like act out passages from the book and try to actually actively sell it to the audience and get upset when they don't buy it.
Fun. That's funny.
Thank you. Yeah, and it was great. And then after these performances, people were like, "Is that real?" And I'm like, you think I would make up the fact that I have this cougar mom who wrote a book called "The Cougar's Guide to Getting Your Ass Back Out There"? Print out the book and this is what I'm like. All right, so Dad led us to create a video together and then a podcast from there.
Okay, so it was born out of that.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And then your podcast is a weekly chat between the two of you about kind of like where either of you, or it seems like who you're dating maybe at the time.
Yeah, it kind of depends.
Kind of depends on the
my dating life is not that robust to talk about it every week. We often interview like any people in the sex industry. It could be just people that we're friends with who have interesting stories related to sex. It could just be, on Mondays, it's usually just the two of us responding to listeners' comments and questions.
It's called the morning after episode.
Yeah, the Monday morning after show. So on Thursday, we release the episode with an interview with someone, and then on Mondays, we'll talk about what the audience thought of that.
Yeah. And we got some really kooky comments.
Right. Yeah.
Fun.
So I suppose you grew up with it, but I guess how do you overcome or work through any element of awkwardness that might exist when discussing like personal things? Like, for example,
anal sex.
I don't think I've ever said the words anal sex to my mother, and I don't think I will. Right? Like, so there may be a scenario where, you're discussing anal sex, where I'm sure a lot of people, when they listen, they think, I would never talk to my mother that way. I'm sure a lot of people think that you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, totally. But you met her, like you sat with her. She's pretty chill. Like it's actually stranger. We have such a role reversal sometimes, where I'm so much the parent, she's so much the child, or playing those specific roles, that it is stranger. Like we are such good friends at this point. To reestablish the mother-son relationship is actually a very jarring experience in a way. It's like this. It's kind of a weird balance. Are we mom-son? Are we friends?
Co-workers?
Are we co-workers? It kind of gets tricky there. But yeah, I mean, she's not going to judge me related to anything sexual. And if she does, I can judge her.
I don't believe in judgments. And I was thinking about even like doing another YouTube channel, just talking about like dogs and kids, because I feel like, the way you raise your kids should not be like, don't. It should be like, go for it and use good judgment. Giving the kids the confidence like that. Yeah, if you try this and it doesn't work out for you, then you know not to do it again. It's natural consequences for your actions. I don't like restrict like no sodas. Like it's when the kids would come to my house and be like, let's go. She's got candy. I mean, my kids would go Halloween trick-or-treating. I left the candy on the table. They never ate it. They just was like, oh, I got all this candy. Other kids that are deprived would run over to my house and just like gorge themselves with the Halloween candy. So that's my whole way of parenting, is like, just like trust that your kids are going to make good decisions.
The truth is, like, growing up, she was like, both my parents were like, hey, take a sip of this alcohol, or
Yeah.
like,
Try
you
it.
know, go party, go do this, all this shit. So my rebellion was like, no, I'm gonna take it easy, hang out with you guys, you know, read a little bit. And I think still, like, I mean, you were always a proponent of me experimenting sexually, like, and really testing out a lot. I think your analogy was like test out a lot of cars or drive a lot of cars before you buy one.
Yeah, you never buy a car without testing out a lot of different models.
That's the language you would use?
Yeah.
Because one thing that I like about our show is we'll have people on and they'll say, oh, so-and-so said this to me and it empowered me to do this. Or so-and-so said this to me and it hindered me for 5 years because I couldn't think around that logic for a little while. So I love hearing stories about like the actual language you use to like empower.
Yeah.
So that's
that stuck in my mind. Yeah. And so, but I never felt like I was the type. I never really enjoyed, you know, just random hookups all the time. Like I felt real awkward about that.
Yeah,
like to have sex with someone I'm not emotionally connected to is like a really weird experience for me.
Yeah.
And which is not typical of guys our age.
Right.
Most guys are just like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck anything.
I think it's more typical than we think.
Maybe
I'm that way too, and I've come across a lot of people that are like that.
But that is in itself been a coming out process for me to be like, yeah, I'm not necessarily going to be the typical mask guy that everyone, you know, that you see in movies like in fraternities and shit like that.
Yeah.
Tell them what happened on the pickup artist convention.
We basically got in a fight with these pickup artists.
You went to a pickup artist.
We spoke.
We were invited to speak there.
This is hilarious. So for those that don't know, pickup artistry is a movement that is largely online on websites like Reddit, where men teach each other how to find targets, vulnerable people to then manipulate through tactics like insulting them into nagging, into sleeping with them. And
it's like Tom Cruise's character in Magnolia.
Is that what he does in Magnolia?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is scum of the earth. So you guys went to speak to these people.
After the third day.
Yeah, on the third day we were invited, and we had no idea what we were walking into. Like, these guys have been brainwashed to really think that that's how you pick up women. And so right off the bat, I asked the audience, I'm like, are you here? Well, I go, why are you here? Are you here? And one of them shouts out, to fuck women like your mom. And I'm like, oh, okay. Is it to fuck women like my mom? Or is it to be in a relationship with women like my mom? Because those are two very different things that you should know before, like, approaching a woman.
Right.
I mean, sometimes they get conflated in our minds. And so I'm still pushing myself to experiment sexually and to kind of enter this whole sex positive world with, like, maybe I don't need to have like a very committed relationship to have like sex. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a way to enjoy it for the act and with the person that I'm with, but yeah. But this is kind of my rebellion against her saying you should be fucking everything, you know, like experimenting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, I think, at least in our community, the worry is that if you free people, they will revert to their quote unquote natural man.
Yeah.
And
they should talk to me. I'll get the Mormons not to have sex anymore. They will rebel against me.
Right, but this idea that I think we are our own people, like, in spite of the way we are raised. Like, the way we're raised certainly affects us, but like our own personalities, proclivities are going to affect our sex lives, even if the people that are raising us are telling us to just do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, that could be accurate as well.
Like, this could just be you.
You're right. You're totally right.
She couldn't
absolved me.
Like, she couldn't have done anything else.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely possible.
That is possible.
But the advantage in this relationship that I see is that you are equipped, thanks to your good parenting, with, at the very least, education on contraception and preventing STIs and preventing, you understand consent probably way better than any of us Mormon boys did, right?
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you called my attention to that. I think it could just be something innate. It's an innate preference, but I don't know.
A lot of times at least in my experience, boundaries about what you can talk about are kind of unspoken in parent-child relationships. I remember, and I think kids butt up against this. They'll say something kind of extreme to test boundaries with their parents. Do you guys have boundaries now about what you can and can't talk about with sex?
It's a good question because we kept saying the boundary is here. The boundary is on squirting, and then it was the boundaries on anal. Now I don't even. Are there any?
Both those now.
Are there any boundaries anymore?
I mean, it's been 2.5 years. I mean, I think there are boundaries. They're not necessarily like topics that are off limits, but there is a way of approaching the dialogue that would be crossing a boundary if I admitted something to her and then she responded in a way that was really callous or judgmental or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think if there was a boundary, I think that we would discuss it.
Yeah.
If either one of us, because
there are boundaries there.
Yeah, I've been in a relationship for 10.5 years. And I rarely discuss anything personal between us.
Yeah. So. And they're kind of sometimes bizarre boundaries of me, like sometimes she'll ask me like, hey, so what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, I'm going to dinner with a friend. And she'll be like, who are you going with? And I'm like, no, I don't. We can spend a lot of time together.
He won't tell me.
You don't need to know everything that's going on in my life.
He won't tell me that he's going out with just a regular Joe off the street.
Right.
That's where he draws the line.
Because there needs to be space there. And I need to have my own life to my own privacy.
Yeah.
So while we can have open communication, there also can be limits to it.
But I think the key is that if either of us has any kind of tension or awkwardness or whatever, we will like text each other immediately and say, hey, sorry, I was crabby about that. Or,
which I do a lot.
Yeah, he does a lot more apologizing than I do. But basically, no, if we do hurt each other or inadvertently, we, are quick to like say sorry and what can we do to change it or how can we make this relationship better? And I try to do that with my other children too.
Yeah, what's funny is that it's way harder to be in a business partnership. Like you would assume that the hard part about this job or show is the content and having these difficult talks. But
that's the fun part.
That's the fun part. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
It's really like there's so much like labor that goes into this, and just working with anyone that you have to. It's fucking frustrating. So
and Cam does most of it, so I think he gets more frustrated.
But you do a ton too.
Yeah, but you do a lot. Anyway,
so it's working as coworkers. It's actually what's challenging.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah. How about you guys?
Oh yeah.
As far as our relationship and like dividing labor when it comes to making a podcast, I feel like we've figured out like a pretty decent working relationship.
Yeah, we've had to have a lot of conversations about it.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Having like
those conversations are good to have.
Totally. I've been in partnerships where there are no conversations and only resentment.
Right.
Yeah.
I've also been work partnerships, trios where there's a lot of conversation and only fighting. And I feel like, those end.
Yeah.
And this podcast keeps going.
I mean, we've had our ebbs and flows about even just doing the podcast because it is so demanding. And you guys took a hiatus. You said how many months?
Yeah.
I don't think we've taken a hiatus, and it is draining it on us.
Yeah.
So that's why we wanted to join Patreon, people. We both have Patreon pages, in case you guys are wondering.
What's your link? Patreon.com/
Sex Talk with my mom.
Sex Talk.
And yours?
It's patreon.com/celestial sex.
Which we'll probably harp on in the intro.
And the outro. So I want to go back. I love this boundary. There's a memory that just popped up for me. I really think it's on the parents, especially with kids, to open up the dialogue. Chris's mom said, if you have any questions about sex, ask me. Mm-hmm. And that was it. It didn't like establish a conversation first to allow Chris to have the language to talk about and to ask about sex. My mom, one time when I was in high school, we were watching an episode of Law and Order, or one of those like nighttime crime dramas, and one of the characters was a high school student and mentioned, "Oh yeah, I remember Stacy gave Mark a Hummer in the bathroom between third and fourth period." And my mom said, "Colin, what's a Hummer?" And I just froze. I was like, A, I didn't know. B, I was like, talking about sex stuff that isn't P&V with my mom? That's crazy. Because she hadn't ever, our sex talk was, she taught me about P&V sex, and that was it. And I just felt, looking back on it now and realizing I just felt so guilty instantly, because I was like, oh, there's other stuff, and I'm supposed to know about it, and what if I did know about it? Would that be wrong if I knew about it? But your example, Karen, here is you established early on that there was no judgment, there was no like guilting about sexuality, or and that was the factor that was missing in that one instance with my mom, who is great, by the way, and was a great mother. But in this one instance, I felt a lot of guilt, and would have felt more guilt if I had known what a Hummer was, probably, and still wouldn't have wanted to answer her. And like, so that, I think that's a huge element of like sex talk with your kids, is establish that there's going to be no guilt if we talk about this. There's going to be, like, that's
You're
a
off
big
the
thing.
hook, right?
I don't think we've talked about it on the show.
Yeah.
Nobody gives you this manual of how to raise kids.
Right.
It's really kind of tough.
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
really is. And I was a school social worker, so I knew a lot. And I was actually teaching systematic training for effective parenting before I had kids. So I kind of like had that kind of background about natural consequences for actions and things like that. So that kind of gave me a framework. But truthfully, it's a hard job. Especially if you've got this Mormon thing going on that's telling you don't talk about sex with your kids. So then, as a parent, how do you talk about sex with your kids?
Right.
Or why would you?
Or it's saying, talk to your kids about sex, but we're not going to give you any language or advice about how to do that.
But what's interesting is that your dad's a urologist.
Yeah.
It's comical.
Yeah. Well,
it is totally
It is pretty
comical.
perfect.
Yeah. And they just didn't know. My dad actually wrote this really great short essay about his father when he was young. His dad called up late one night and said, "David," this is when my dad was in high school, said, "Hey, bring a camera to the operating room." And my dad got up and brought a camera to the OR, and realized there was this man on the table with a broken penis. And
I've heard of that.
And my grandpa wanted photos of it.
Wait, was your grandfather also a urologist?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And later that night, my dad was asking about it, and my grandpa lied to him and said, "Oh yeah, he rolled over on it in the night," instead of saying he broke it while having sex.
Yeah.
And it's this great essay about, why couldn't my dad just like open up to me about sex? And reading that essay opened my mind to like, oh, of course, my dad actually did a great job for what he was raised in.
Yeah.
He like opened up way more.
Yeah.
And like we had tons more conversations, than he had with his dad. So it's also like what you're given.
I think having a doctor as a parent, and it's just brainstorming right now, really does help talk, because you're talking about the human body.
Yeah, you normalize
Especially
the
a
vocab.
urologist when my dad was an intern, same thing.
Yeah. If you normalize the vocab, it's way easier.
But yeah, most people aren't doctors, right? And it's like, but that's just the case. We like a lot of people don't have that like in their families, and I think my mom has since become a social worker as well, and now she's like got I have brothers who are quite a bit younger than me who are probably getting much more open conversations about sex than we got, because they now have siblings who are married, and there have been babies born, nieces and nephews, and that kind of thing. I'm sure my brothers are much more well equipped to enter into their adulthood and sex lives than I was. And yeah, you just kind of keep improving and all that.
I'm regularly surprised, especially living in LA. I feel like I meet a lot of crazy personalities.
Yeah.
And after spending time with them, getting to know them, and I'm like, I meet their parents, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is what you came from? How did you turn out this good?
Yes.
It is often looking at like the lineage where you're like, oh wow, we are really I think we're just trying our best, even with what we're working with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, this was a great conversation.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us on the show.
Yeah, I feel like your example as a mother, son, mother is excellent. And yeah, it seems like just being open to talking about it and doing the work on your own to educate yourself on how to talk about it seems like a great route.
How do you think you're gonna? I wrote that down as one of my questions before this whole discussion. But what kind of parent are you going to be if I was talking about sex with your kids?
Oh, interesting. I don't know if I'll ever have children. My dick fell off. No, I don't know if I'm gonna have kids. I haven't decided. But if I do have kids, if something happens and I have children, or if I decide to adopt or foster kids, my plan is to generally talk openly about sex with my partner in the house and have it just be a conversation that is constantly happening.
Mm-hmm.
And around the kid will be age appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a kid, if that happens. Probably not, but if it happens, age appropriate conversations, but generally it's just happening. It's just, there's no question whether or not you can approach me or my partner about sex.
Mm-hmm.
It is an evolving, constant thing. And like Colin was saying, free from the judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah, no guilt. And then, yeah, I love that point of there's no one sex talk. It's just, we can always talk about it, and we'll talk about it at the level you're at.
Right.
You know?
That's kind of, I think, why I don't remember any specific sex talk, because it was kind of just this flowing thing.
You can always bring it up.
Yeah.
Especially like the later at night, the better. It ends up being like, I would talk to him and his friends like till 2 a.m.
Mm.
I love that stuff. Are you kidding? I turned it to this big night owl, and it was the best time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
You can find their podcast anywhere you download podcasts. Sex Talk with My Mom.
Yeah, we're on Spotify now. Woo-hoo.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
And on Instagram.
Yeah, Sex Talk with My Mom.
Pretty much Sex Talk with My Mom on every platform except for Twitter, which is Sex Talk Podcast.
Yes, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. I guess you can plug your own hotline, but if you have any questions or comments, we have our own hotline called Yes Text Mom.
Awesome.
Yeah, ask us anything.
Cool.
Oh, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you
guys.
for having us. This was so fun.
Awesome.
You guys exhausted?
You did it. Good
That's
job.
so great.
We need to take a couple photos.
Thank you
Don't
guys
forget.
so much for hanging in here. Bryson, thank you this whole time.
Bryson is one of my best.
I grew up on not having sex until I was married, but that's not why I'm still a virgin. I needed to get my head right. The only good thing about going to a Baptist church is that it feels at times that you went to a concert.
Mm.
And then Sir Blumpkin says, I bet you've had your own bukkake party. Thank you, Blumpkin. All right. See you later. Until next time.
That's what we normally get. Those lovely